Hello and welcome, Frontchill fam, to another ridiculous video of content. Today is Pip and Pixel, Big Proust, Little Faust, where we interview various friends and family of the Frontchill fam. And today we have the eponymous YevYev, a man of many names and monikers and social media guru. As always, at the top and at the ends, we love to thank YevYev, Nomad, Doomsayer, and Backblaze for helping keep all this ridiculousness going. To help out with the things, do the social things, and click on the links all over. But enough with the script. Into the fun stuff. Some of you may be familiar with this, but Yev is not. So Yev, let us begin. First, what is your name?
Well, I am familiar with that. My name is Yev Pusin.
What is your quest?
Interesting. My quest is to exude calm.
What is your favorite color?
Orange.
What movie reference do you feel embodies you as a storyteller slash gamer?
Oh, that is a great. Oh, that is a great question. Let me give you. Let me give you
Oh,
the. Let me give you the answer that I sent to someone in the form of a GIF earlier today, so it
aha.
will actually be relevant and accurate.
Uh,
Maybe if you tell me the bad news in a good way, it won't sound so
excellent, excellent, and I can't wait. I encourage the comment war of GIF versus GIF in the comments because any engagement is good engagement. I'll take it. Doesn't mean I have to read it. So going from there into some of the as we transition into some of the deeper territory, hit us with your pronouns and where the viewer can see or hear you as of this interview.
bad. He, him. You can see me or meet me or interact with me primarily on Twitter is where I spend most of my time. That's at YevP. Instagram is also YevP. I think Tumblr is also YevP. Most places are basically YevP. If you get in early enough, you can get a cool 4 character, username, which has been my, which has been my approach over time.
Excellent, excellent. Also, why the hashtag YevP everywhere.
YevP
Uh,
everywhere.
he does
Except
indeed.
no, except for like there are some. It's funny because I came into that like later in life, like things that I've had for more than a decade, like
Mm.
Steam, for example, actually is different. So like for an Xbox and Steam, it's like Yevgeny, which is also kind of a play on my name and also a genie because I used to make cool shit happen when playing Team Fortress 2. So like so you have genie or you have P.
Nice. So if you see the Yev Genie, you know you got the OG. I love it.
Mhm.
Uh, Speaking of which, what games are you playing right now?
Oh man. I the last game that I played was Resident Evil Village,
Mm.
which is convenient because I think JC is playing that on Frontchill as we speak. So I burned through that game because it was so good, so good. Beyond that, I'm playing a lot of the game of life, and so I have not had a chance to play a ton of games recently. But Resident Evil Village, I kind of want to look up the Ascent. I think is what it's called. Ascent is a new game. It's a little cyberpunky. I was waiting for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, and then my heart got broken.
Yeah.
But maybe one day, hope springs eternal, or as the Russians would say, hope dies last. And the difference between those two sayings is a good insight into the difference between the two cultures. Um, and I'm actually looking forward a ton to dipping into the Mass Effect kind of Redux. I loved those games when they first came out, but right now I don't have any gaming equipment hooked up other than my Switch. So as soon as I can get my gaming rig back or get my hands on a sweet PS5, I'll dive into the Mass Effect again. Stoked about it.
Nice.
And Deathloop, like I'm looking forward to more games than I'm playing, and I hope that means that I will actually get to play them. Control is another game that I just recently played, and
Ooh,
that game is amazing. I'm a big fan of Remedy.
excellent, excellent. And does this include tabletop flavors?
Mm. So because that takes up more like actual calendar time, I have not been playing a ton, as Tony knows. My schedule prohibits me from doing so much so that I've actually stepped away from my long standing like out of Backblaze game. I was like, hey, you guys have to put me on ice for a while,
Oh,
and so I got turned into stone, as is the dungeon master's way. That is usually the way that you get out of this, where it's like, and you're petrified. So like you will be unpetrified at some point in the future, and maybe you will have had some kind of like mental gymnastics with like a deity to like up level you to the point where like the rest of your party is now and so I have not been playing much, but I do love playing D&D, primarily 5e, although I started with Pathfinder, and then also some Vampire Masquerade.
nice. I love hearing different groups and DMs ways of dealing with the absent player, and that's a good one.
Oh, I mean, it was just like it's happened to me twice where it was like, hey, I like my schedule is going to become the problem, and like I understand that, and like you should keep having fun and like doing it. Like this sucks for me, but like keep going, and you're stoned now, and we'll deal with you later. It's like you're stoned, but like some of your magical items that are world uh required somehow did not get
All
turned to
off.
stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so they can keep going, but you are no longer in play.
plucking quat, plucking quest fruits from the YEV tree. Uh,
Exactly.
love it. Cool. Um, since there's such a excellent breadth, what is a quintessential moment in your life associated with gaming?
Oh, that's interesting. I came to tabletop actually board games in general very late. So I am an immigrant, grew up in the Soviet Union. Our tabletop role-playing game was chess. And so that was the only game that I played growing up. And the role play that you were doing was you were always Gary Kasparov trying to beat the Americans. And so that was a role-playing component. So a lot of chess growing up, some checkers, but we weren't like a board game family at home. And so like we had the game of life, which I remember really enjoying as a kid because like you could spin like a big wheel in the middle of it, and I found that kind of like tactily interesting. We had the game of sequence, which had to do with cards, uh, and so that was like kind of fun. But that was kind of it. And like I remember hating Monopoly because I'm like, oh my god, you have to sit here for like 4.5 hours, and like I've never finished a game of Monopoly. It's never happened. Usually people are like, I don't know, who has the most money? Like we're calling it. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. Like we're done. And so I never played games as a like as a kid or even as a young adult. And then after college, um, I also didn't play any games. And then at Backblaze, I have a friend Anna and her husband, and she liked to play games. And so I was like, oh, like I'll sit in on a couple of these. And one of the ones that we played was like Arkham Asylum, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is what board games are like. I was like, wait, okay, sweet. And so right around that time was when I first found out about D&D in a more like direct way because I was watching YouTube, and this all kind of came together in like 2014, 2015. So I was so late, like very recent, kind of making up for lost time. Which is why anytime like friends are over, I'm like, "Do you want to play Catan? I just learned about Catan," and they're like, "You are 10 years late to Catan," and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, but like bear with me." And so like that, I love Terraforming Mars. I do not like Twilight Imperium because I just do not have that amount of time. But I have played it twice, and like it was fine. if you're into that sort of thing. But so right around 2014, I watched Celebra D&D because I liked Vin Diesel, and he was playing with Matthew Mercer and Marisha Ray on the Geek and Sundry channel, and I was like, wait, what are these guys doing? Like, I like Vin Diesel. That's how I found it. I was like, oh, Vin Diesel plays Dungeons and Dragons. Like, that must be weird. Like, I want to watch this. Then I watched it, and I was like, oh my god, these guys are great. Like, Vin Diesel's great, but also like these people are awesome. Like, what are they doing? And that was about like maybe 30 episodes into Critical Role. Like, they were already doing it, but that was the first that I kind of got into Dungeons and Dragons, and I kind of went to some of my Reddit friends here in the Bay Area, and I was like, "Hey, does anyone play D&D? Like, can someone run a game for me?" And one of them was like, "Sure." So we ran one game where I played for like all of, I don't know, it was like 2 hours, and we killed some. We were all level 1, and we killed some goblins or something, and I was like, "Okay, this is great." Um, and then I got Anna's husband to run a homebrew for us, which is still theoretically ongoing, although now it's going versus in email, where we're sending updates on like what our characters are doing. And so we've been playing that since 2014, 2015. And then I got involved in Critical Role and started playing Dungeons and Dragons in Adventures League, which is kind of local play for D&D 5e, and so that is kind of my like gaming into board gaming genesis. And so the seminal moment, which I think was your original question, was like graduating college and like entering the real world and meeting people that like played games actually. Like, that was crazy to me. Like, it was not a thing that I was exposed to. And so now I'm kind of like voraciously making up for it,
No, I
or
love it.
trying, like, as you know, as schedules allow. Unfortunately, like my like interest in games and like time to play games are like inversely proportional at the moment. But hopefully that ship will right itself soon.
The eternal struggle. And yes, pleased to have helped enable all of that.
Yeah, like the vampire game. Like, that was the first time I played vampire. Was with you. I growing. I mean, seminal gaming moment. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines was, or maybe is, my favorite game of all time.
Hmm.
Vampires have always tickled like some weird horny part of my brain ever since I was reading Christopher Pike novels as a
Yeah.
child. The Last Vampire, I think, was a series that he wrote, and like that hit me right when I was like 13 or 14, and I was like, this is amazing. I want this to be a part of my life forever.
Yeah.
And so that thus became my vampire fetish. I'm assuming other people are in the same boat. And yeah, and so like playing Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines was just like incredible. And I was like, I don't know anything about vampire, like I don't know anything about this world, but I do like being a vampire, and I like the lore they're building. And I was playing Fallout and stuff at the time, so I was like, ooh, I like making like word like I like making character choices. What I didn't know at the time was that I liked RPGs. Like, that was the word that I was looking for. Like,
Yeah.
I like role playing games, but I was like, ooh, I like making a decision about like what my character will say. Same as like EverQuest, although that was a darker period of my life, which I got addicted to that, so that was not great. But Vampire the Masquerade, phenomenal. Has a beginning, a middle, and an end, so you can stop playing it if you ever if you get to the end of it. Highly recommend playing games with an end point if you have an addictive personality like me. Which is why I haven't played World of Warcraft. But yeah, talking about formative games, like that one was huge for me because I was like, oh my god, like this game is very tight. Like, if you'll remember playing that game, it didn't have like, I mean, it had like world ending consequences, but the game itself was very tight. Like, you were in one portion of a city and then you were in another portion of a city. Like, it wasn't like Marvel movies now where it's like everything is the fate of the world and we're jet setting and like we're doing it, which also is super fun, but the
Right.
stakes seemed smaller in your quests as you were going through them.
Yeah.
And so like that was awesome. And like collecting, the weapons and the loot, and just like meeting all the different characters and having my skill tree dictate what I could say to them possibly
Hmm.
was just like kind of mind-blowing for me. And then playing it in person was completely different with you, with my first character, whose name, oh, why can't I remember his name? It wasn't Joe. Joe's the current one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
Plant.
Plant. Ivy. Oh, it was Ivy. Thank you. Thank you. Playing with Ivy was like super fun. And like going through kind of the creation of the vampire arc was super great. So yeah, a lot of memories. Have a lot of fun playing games.
Nice. Yeah. Hashtag family. We're all excited for the next season to drop for LA by Night. They already started filming.
Season 5.
Yeah,
They're
we're gonna
already
be.
done. They're done filming.
Yeah, we're gonna be rocking it. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Plowing through. Speaking of which, of characters you've played,
Mhm.
party, date, rehabilitate, similar to marry, date, kill.
Of the characters that I've played,
Party, date,
date,
rehabilitate.
I mean, I think no one will be. I mean, I don't think a lot of people know some of the characters that I've played. Like in my long-term homebrew D&D game that I play with some friends in Oakland, like that would be absolutely the type of person that I would party with. His name is Raylandale. He is he is a high elf rogue turned paladin, which is a very weird thing. It's
Nice.
homebrewy. Don't read into it. Like
Hey,
we worked it out with the DM.
this question is for you and the weirdos who play with those characters, so please.
Yeah, so like Raylandale would definitely be a hell of a party. So date, like there was a another character that I played for Adventures League called Ferp. I had this thing where like all of my characters in Adventures League ended with "erp," and so they were kind of like all related in a very like weird way, or not a weird way. They were all canonically not related, but kind of related if you knew that they were all played by the same individual. Like
Sure.
I was the relation. And so Ferp would have been like a fun person to date. Ferp started his life as a gnome wizard, and then got turned into a tiefling wizard through being murdered by a hill giant, and then reincarnated, not
Nice.
resurrected. Very
Nope.
important
Yeah.
nuance. Was
that's,
reincarnated
that's how
as a
that
tiefling.
happens.
And so Ferb kind of talked like this. He had a really like can-do attitude and was just super excited to be there. And that was weird coming out of a tiefling after
Yeah.
and so that was Ferb. I would love to date Ferb. He's just the type of positive energy this world needs. Rehabilitate would probably be Joe from Silicon Valley by Night. He's just like kind of curmudgeon-y and like doesn't like being around people. And like I feel like he could probably be brought into a more social sphere given enough time.
Just need someone to work with him on it. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Well, and he also it's a two-way street. He needs to be willing to work on it himself.
Yep.
But yes, some help would be good.
Excellent. In the context of gaming slash storytelling, what is your favorite word or term or acronym?
In the context of gaming, this is like the inside the actor studio. Yeah. Okay. What is your favorite word? Baloney. Inside. So favorite word inside the context of gaming. I can tell you what one of my least favorite words is, simulacrum, because I just didn't understand what that meant for the longest time, and I was like, it took me a minute to be like, oh, it's like a simile, it's a similar thing, like focus on the first part, not the last part, acrum. That one confused me for a minute. Word or acronym? I mean, I guess RPG. Like I just like RPGs. Does that count as an answer? Like
Totally.
it makes me, like I like and I wish I was better at RPGs in a way. I was gonna say like I love inhabiting another character and kind of like playing the game as them. And as I was about to say that, I was like, that's absolutely not what I do. Like I play everyone Paragon, right? Which is like, which is very similar to my perception of what I am. And real life. I don't know how that is in reality. Everyone has inflated sense of self, but that typically tends to be the way that I skew. And so as I was about to say, like, yeah, I love playing as other people. I'm like, no. I basically just transpose myself into these characters, however they're built. I would love to play like a murder hobo, like in an RPG. But the only one that I came close to doing that in was in a game called Dishonored.
Yeah.
Like that one, there is a way to beat the Dishonored games without being seen or detected, and there is also a way to just
yes.
mess shit up.
Yeah.
And that was a really fun way of playing.
Absolutely. You need those catharses. Similar, what is a word term acronym in the context of gaming storytelling you would like to see used more?
Man, that's a great question. I don't like what are examples of other answers that you have received? How do I flip this on you?
We had someone drop Thaco, and it was like, oh no, that was their favorite. They were like, they don't want to see it used more
because they want to go back to 3.5.
No, they did not. They did not want it to be used more. That was just their favorite because it was quintessential, and
Thaco.
Yeah.
If you know what it means, you know what it means, and it takes you to a certain part of
exactly. Yeah. Say or murder hobo.
Sure.
That's a similar context. Or we were discussing MOBA the other day. That how there's an argument as to whether or not that's actually what you should call that. But yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, I guess the thing that I would like to be used more.
RPG is also valid.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe RPG or just like I think about accessible often. Like I want, maybe not in terms of gaming in particular, but also in terms of gaming, which is like I remember distinctly my sister not playing video games growing up as a kid. Like she just didn't play them. That wasn't a thing that she liked. And then one day I was like, hey, like I have an Xbox now. So like I'm gonna teach you how to play Halo. Like we're gonna sit here, we're gonna play Halo together, and like it'll be fun. It'll be like she's 8 years younger than me, and I'm like it'll be like a thing that we do together, and it'll be entertaining. And then when you go to high school parties and they have a Xbox there, and then like all the boys or whatever are playing Xbox, then you'll be able to play, and like that will be cool for them to see you playing Halo. Like that'll be a fun thing. And so like that's what just games that are more accessible. I think a lot of times people don't play games because they are intimidated by them. And so accessibility is something that I would like to hear used more. And she loved like SimCity. I got her hooked on. I don't know if anyone here played computer games, but she loved Heroes of Might and Magic.
Oh, nice.
The turn-based, I don't even know what the hell that thing is called. Basically, it's a turn-based, action game, I guess.
I think it's a free-to-play?
Well, no, it was. I mean, I think it is now. There is a version of Heroes of Might and Magic that is free-to-play, but it was from the Might and Magic series. And so
right.
There was Might and Magic, like 1 through 11 or whatever back in the day, and then there was Heroes of Might and Magic, which was kind of like almost a MOBA equivalent in a way, right? Because like you not only would you play your like main hero, or you would have multiple heroes depending on how powerful you were, but you would also play the army that they were leading, and she liked that quite a bit. And so I was like, I bet if more people were just exposed to this, they would like it. And so maybe accessibility.
Absolutely. What is something in this context everyone is sleeping on?
What is everyone sleeping on? I mean, everyone's played Hades, right? At this point.
Okay.
No one's not played Hades.
Everyone needs to play Hades.
Everyone should play Hades.
Huh?
I think Hades might be my favorite game of 2020. Like it was just like an immaculate foray. Like all the conversations between the characters, I think it was fantastic. So anyway, that's a very specific game. Or the Remedy games. So play Alan Wake if you can. Play play the the control games if you can. They are fantastic. Max Payne, if you can go back in time and like on good old games, Max Payne 1, 2, and 3, phenomenal games. Remedy does it, and I can't remember the person's name. I think Sam Lake was the actual like visual representation of Max Payne, but he was also either one of the producers or one of the writers. But Remedy does an amazing job of world building and then putting you into the world to the extent of there's always like televisions or like radio plays or like TV shows that are running kind of in the different rooms that you're moving into. And those are like, they're just so good. I can't say enough good things about Remedy games. So don't sleep on Remedy games.
Nice.
Like go Control. A Quantum Break was another one. It came out for Xbox only. I didn't have an Xbox at the time, so I haven't played it, but I've watched playthrough videos of it. So go play Remedy games. They're phenomenal. And go play games in person when it is safe to do so. Also, RPGs in a group setting. There's something magical about that. And if you need like a like an impetus to do that, look up for at least D&D 5e, like a local Adventurers League game. They oftentimes play in like local card shops, or they will have they will have events nearby. Like Pacificon is happening in a couple of weeks. Like every few months, there's usually something going on, at least in the Bay Area and across the country too. Gen Con is happening in September. So if you have something happening near you and you feel comfortable going and you're safe and you're vaccinated and you're cool wearing masks or whatever, you can decorate your mask as your character. That's a fun thing that I just thought of in my head right now that will also like maybe help immerse you. I would do that because there is something like, powerful about playing in-person games as well. And if you don't want to do MMORPGs, then kind of like a longer form game like a Catan or a Terraforming Mars or something where you're sitting around the table and you're taking turns and you're going is a great communal experience.
Excellent. Yeah, totally agreed. What is something about like this that is overrated?
Overrated?
Yeah.
I don't know. First person shooters. I know I was just talking about how much I loved Remedy games, and some of them are, I think most of them are actually third person. So maybe I'm safe in that statement, which is great. But yeah, like there's just something that has never appealed to me about like Call of Duty or anything like that. I do love Overwatch, so it's not like this is not a blanket statement.
And you mentioned TF2 earlier, so yeah.
Yeah, Team Fortress 2. I used to be shout out to my friends at the Ville, which was servers that we used to play on, as YevYev Genie. But yeah, there's something about like first person shooters that have kind of, you know what? I'm gonna amend my statement. First person shooters can stay. Multiplayer games can go. And let me explain, because I think there's an important nuance here.
Mm-hmm.
I love playing games with other people. I hate being forced to play games with other people. And so if there was a game that came out a couple years ago that Casey and I used to play, like for a couple of months. It was called The Secret World. And it was an MMORPG. And by definition, MMORPGs, you have to play with other people. But the Secret World was built in such a way that you could kind of solo through most of it and still get all the story beats. And I thought it was one of the better written RPGs of that kind of couple year span. And so like having to play games with other people, so things like Destiny or like Division or like other ones where you could only get so far before you're like, ugh, okay, now I have to go find a group and like do this stuff. That drives me absolutely bonkers. Like I hate other people. Like this is the thing about me that not a lot of people know, but like I don't like other people. I think other people are the worst. And so like being forced to interact with them in a game where I'm trying to like, get out of like the real world, I'm like, I just want a tight story. Like, what's great? God of War, the most recent one, like phenomenal. Horizon Zero Dawn, fantastic. One of my favorite games, in addition to Vampire Masquerade was The Last of Us 1 and 2. Amazing games, take you on an emotional journey. They're also first-person shooters, but like there's no other humans involved, and they're taking you on a narrative ride, right? Like and so like anyway, what's overrated is making me play with other people when I don't wanna.
Right,
And if
right.
I wanna, then I'll play Destiny or I'll play Overwatch, but I don't wanna usually.
Right, right. Well, and you've given us some great examples. So, what would you say is something that, or if I were to say pinnacle of storytelling, what jumps to mind?
In terms of games, I mean, I think it has to be The Last of Us. Like if you put a gun to my head and we're like, "Hey, like I don't think games are art." Prove me wrong. I would say like, you know what? Watch the first 15 minutes like as a cutscene in high def of The Last of Us. Right? Like just watch someone play through the first 15 minutes. You don't have to play the game itself, just watch it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't move you like in a way that art would move you, then you might be right. But I have a feeling that after the first 15 minutes of that game, you won't want to play it, but you'll be like, oh man, they took me on a journey there.
Right.
And so I think I often point back to that one as like if you're not into games, that's fine. Like I'm not here to. I usually my stance is to not convince anyone of anything because like that's just not my vibe.
Right.
But if someone were to ask and ask for a specific example, the first Last of Us is so good, and playing through it was so good, and playing through the second one was so good. Like Naughty Dog does an amazing job of storytelling. Now you can make an argument that like their stories are very very long, and like would it be good to have like a bite-sized morsel? Maybe, but I have found myself entertained throughout the whole journey there. I know it's not for everybody, but that's kind of my answer. I love the Last of Us series.
Great, great. Cool. Rolling down to the end of the hill here. What is a class race combo or gaming genre you'd love to try?
Gaming genre. I'd love to do something cyberpunky.
Hmm.
Like that tends to be like super my shit, but I have not like actually played a like like a live action version of it. I love the Deus Ex games.
Hmm.
Um, that was one. Syndicate was another, where it's like futuristic, like everything is kind of the worst. um Cyberpunk 2077, I think is what
Yeah.
I keep forgetting the date of it, but I think it's 2077.
Yeah, yeah.
Which doesn't seem that far in the future, so I'm like, they should have probably overshot by like another 100 years or so. I'll probably be around in 2077, like
Right.
here's hoping, but so I'm like, I don't think it'll look quite like that, but I've started that game. I haven't played all of it, but I would love to explore kind of more cyberpunk elements. There's something about like robotics and kind of like cyborg. Deus Ex does a very good job of this, where you can choose the different augmentations that you want to have, and it does change kind of like how the game evolves based on like what you're able to do, which is kind of fun.
Cool.
And also Bioshock, like super good, and then you kind of pick lanes inside of there.
Yeah.
Similar idea.
Neat. What is a race class combo or genre you would not like to try?
I think like this is gonna. I mean, is this question like? Is this question intended to like alienate at least one group of people? I think it is. Like, so I'll give you the answer, and I'll just alienate whoever is alienated by this.
All
There's
right.
something about playing a vanilla barbarian that like just does not appeal to me.
Fair.
I'm like, and it's similar to any like straight martial class where I'm like, I don't know, I run in and I have two attacks, or like I have one attack until I have two attacks, and maybe one day I'll have three attacks, and then like that's kind of my utility. I tend to like my rogue Raylandale was like that. Like when you're a rogue, you kind of like go in and you stab. I tend to play swashbucklers because then at least most of the time, if you're playing very aggressively, you can at least get sneak attack, which is super fun. Now, and so, but it forces you to play aggressive and like run into the middle of stuff and like, make really bad decisions, which leads to severe ramifications, which is me usually getting knocked out or being on the verge of death, like 90% of encounters. And so Julia, our DM, is always kind of amused because I'm like, hey, this is like, swashbucklers are kind of overpowered. You kind of get you get advantage if the enemy is by itself and you're near it, and you get advantage if there's someone within 5 feet of the enemy. And so it's like you're always kind of in sneak attack range if you're doing it right. And I'm like, so how do I manage this in a way that's also fun for the DM instead of me just like, murdering everybody? And I'm like, well, that means that he is running out like a tank, like first things first, right? And that makes it a little bit more dynamic and exciting. And she usually takes swings at me, which is super fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like there's something about like just vanilla martial classes like that are played kind of like I go into a rage, I hit the thing, I take half damage, like I wait for my next turn. I'm just like, like I feel like there's something missing there. I don't know, and no shade to the favorite barbarian. Like I know everyone loved Grog and Travis Willingham and Yasha with Ashley Johnson. Like barbarians are fun, and if you play them right, like they're dynamic and they're exciting. But like I feel like I just don't have the capacity to do it in a way that makes it interesting, like I do with kind of my like idiot rogue that's always like, no, I'll handle this, and then immediately gets knocked out. So just like vanilla martial classes, less of that.
No, and that's that. There it's the skeleton of it doesn't come with its own trappings, and certain people are more ready to throw those onto it. So no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. End of the line here. If heaven exists, would you rather the gate interview be proctored by Proust, Bernard Pivot, James Lipton, or Sean Evans?
Sean Evans.
Hot ones.
I was like, two of these things are not like the other two, and it's James Lipton and Sean Evans. I think that it really is a toss up for me between James Lipton and Sean Evans. I would skew towards Sean Evans. Only I love James. Like there's something about Inside the Actor Studio like that I just like, it tickles my brain. And his cadence and voice and timbre are just phenomenal. But I've also been developing an immunity to hot sauces and iocane powder, and so there's something about like a Sean Evans interview that might tickle my brain. So it's a toss up between the two. If we're just talking, James Lipton. If we're like having some hot sauce and I want to cry, Sean Evans.
Oh. Excellent. Well, thank you for settling for this humble interviewer, and thanks much for joining us on all of our adventures, Yev, as we hope to continue to have them together. The
ones that I can make it to, I love being there for.
No, we appreciate it. Love it. All right, so that'll conclude this one. As always, at the end of things, we love to say thank you to you, Frontchill fam, you, Yev, YevYev, Nomad, Doomsayer, and Backblaze. As at the top, as at the bottom, click the things, engage on the things. Talkie. That helps do all that stuff. All right. Thank you much. Bye-bye.